The transport ship Vekthari hummed through the void between stars, its sleek hull cutting through space like a silver needle. Inside the pristine corridors, Commander Zephyra of the Altarian High Council paced with irritation, her forearms gesticulating wildly as she spoke into her communication device. "No, Council Member Thex. I will not tolerate another cycle of this creature's presence aboard my vessel," she hissed, her scaled skin shifting from blue to an angry crimson. "The beast is hideous, disruptive, and serves no purpose in our advanced society." Through the reinforced viewing portal of the cargo bay, the subject of her disgust sat quietly in the corner. The creature was indeed strange by galactic standards. Where most sentient species had evolved sleek, elegant forms with multiple limbs and sophisticated features, this being appeared almost primitive. It had only 4 limbs, rough patches of fur covering its body in browns and whites, and large, expressive eyes that seemed to hold an intelligence that made many uncomfortable. The creature had been discovered 3 rotations ago, on a derelict ship drifting near the Outer Rim territories. The vessel bore no markings from any known civilization, and its occupants had long since perished. Only this one survivor remained, sealed in an emergency life support pod with strange markings that the translation system struggled to interpret. The symbols seemed to spell something like ROVR, but meant nothing to the Galactic database. "Sir," came the voice of Navigation Officer Clicks through the intercom, "we are approaching the designated coordinates for cargo disposal." Zephyra's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The Altarian Council had voted unanimously to dispose of the creature at the nearest uninhabited system. It would be left with basic survival supplies on a planet that scans showed could support its life functions, though barely. The galaxy had no room for such ungainly, inefficient beings. In the cargo bay, the creature they called the Beast had actually been listening to everything through the ship's communication systems. Its species had developed remarkable hearing, and the universal translators worked both ways. It understood perfectly that it was being abandoned, left to die on some remote world, because these beings found it aesthetically displeasing and useless. The irony was not lost on the creature. Its kind had always been loyal, had always served others faithfully. Even now, despite understanding the betrayal being planned, it felt no hatred toward its captors. This was simply the way of things. Apparently, through the viewport, a blue-green world came into view. The planet looked remarkably similar to the one from its genetic memories. The world its pack had called Earth before the great journey that had ended in disaster. The creature's tail, which had been still for days, gave a small, involuntary wag. The landing was rough. The Altarians had not bothered with a gentle descent, instead using an emergency pod to deposit their unwanted passenger along with a small cache of basic supplies. As the pod's doors hissed open, the creature stepped out onto solid ground for the first time in months. The air was clean, filled with scents that triggered deep memories. There were trees here, real ones, not the sterile synthetic environments of the galactic ships. Grass grew wild across rolling hills, and in the distance, the sound of running water could be heard. For the first time since its rescue, the creature's mouth opened in what its species called a smile, tongue lolling out slightly. This place felt like home. High above, the Vekthari prepared to depart. Zephyra watched through the sensors as the creature explored its new prison. "Hideous thing," she muttered. "At least it will not suffer long. The planet has predators, and it has no natural weapons to speak of." What the commander did not know was that she had just made the biggest mistake in Altarian history. The creature below was not just any random beast. Its species had been the companions of humanity for thousands of years before the great exodus from Earth. They had been bred not just for loyalty, but for intelligence, problem-solving, and most importantly, survival. As the ship's engines flared and it disappeared into hyperspace, the creature sat on a hillside and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there were its human companions, the pack leaders who had loved and trained its ancestors, the humans who had launched desperate ships into space when their world had become uninhabitable, hoping their loyal friends would survive the journey even. If they could not, the creature's enhanced hearing picked up something in the distance. Not just the sound of water, but something else. Something artificial. Technology. Its nose twitched, analyzing the scents carried on the wind. Metal, plastics, energy sources. And underneath it all, a scent that made its entire body quiver with excitement and recognition. Human. The loyal companion that the galaxy had deemed ugly and useless began to run toward the signal, its powerful legs carrying it across the terrain with surprising speed. Behind it, the supply cache sat abandoned. It would not need the pity rations of its captors. The creature knew its purpose now. The Altarians and their precious Galactic Council had made a fatal error in their arrogance. They had assumed that because something did not meet their standards of beauty or obvious utility, it was worthless. They were about to learn why. Humanity had survived the death of Earth. They were about to learn why. Humans had been so successful as a species that even the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had begun to take notice. They were about to learn what happened when you abandoned humanity's best friend. As the creature crested a hill, it saw them in the valley below. A small human settlement, barely more than a few dozen buildings, but unmistakably the work of its beloved pack leaders. The humans had made it here somehow, had survived, had built something new. The creature threw back its head and released a sound that echoed across the valley. Not a howl of despair, but a call of joy, of homecoming, of reunion. In the settlement below, figures began to emerge from buildings, looking up toward the sound. One of them, a weathered woman with kind eyes, dropped the tools she was carrying. That sounds like ... she whispered. Hardly daring to hope, the creature was running now, bounding down the hillside with abandon. The galaxy had thrown away what it could not understand, could not appreciate, but humanity never abandoned family, and the galaxy was about to learn. What happened when you made humanity angry? The reunion was everything the creature had dreamed of during its long captivity. As it bounded into the settlement, humans emerged from every building, their faces showing the same mix of disbelief and overwhelming joy. The woman who had first heard its call was running toward it now, tears streaming down her weathered face. "Rex!" she cried, dropping to her knees as the massive creature barreled into her arms. "Oh my God, Rex. We thought you were dead. We thought all the companion ships were lost." Rex buried his face against Sarah Shun's shoulder, his entire body trembling with emotion. Sarah had been the lead geneticist on the ARC project back on Earth, responsible for ensuring that humanity's most loyal friends would survive the journey to the stars. She had personally overseen Rex's enhancement protocols, upgrading his intelligence and physical capabilities for the long voyage ahead. Other colonists gathered around, reaching out to touch Rex's fur to confirm he was real. Many of these people had worked on the various ARC ships, had devoted their lives to preserving not just humanity, but all the species that had stood beside them on Earth. "How did you get here?" asked Dr. Marcus Webb, the settlement's leader. The Altarians told us they had found no survivors from any of the companion vessels. Rex looked up at the humans surrounding him, his enhanced vocal cords allowing him to speak in the carefully modulated tones his species had been taught. "They lied," he said simply, his voice carrying a depth of intelligence that would have shocked any galactic citizen. "I was the only survivor of the Loyalty's dream. The Altarians kept me as a curiosity for months before deciding I was too ugly to live among their perfect society." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Sarah's face had gone pale, her hands clenching into fists. "They told us they had searched thoroughly. They said they would inform us immediately if any companion survivors were found. They found me 3 months ago," Rex continued, settling down but keeping close physical contact with his human pack. "They studied me, ran tests, discussed me like I was an object. When they grew bored, they brought me here to die." Dr. Webb's expression darkened. The Altarians had been the first galactic species to make contact with the human settlement. They had presented themselves as benevolent patrons, offering protection and occasional supplies in exchange for access to human agricultural techniques. The humans, grateful for any friendly contact in their isolation, had agreed to the arrangement. "They've been playing us," Sarah said quietly. making us dependent on their goodwill while withholding information about our own people. Rex's enhanced hearing picked up movement in the distance. His head swiveled toward the settlement's perimeter, where motion sensors had begun to activate. "We have visitors," he warned, his voice taking on the alert tone that had served his species well in their guardian role. 3 Altarian hovercraft were approaching the settlement, their sleek forms gliding silently over the landscape. At the lead vessel's controls, Commander Zephyra reviewed the data her ship's long-range sensors had collected before departure. "Impossible," she muttered to her pilot. "The creature's biosignature shows signs of advanced neural activity. Our xenobiologists assured us it was a simple beast." The Altarian ships settled onto the settlement's landing pad, and Zephyra emerged with a full diplomatic escort. She had expected to find the creature's remains, perhaps being mourned by the sentimental humans. Instead, she found Rex sitting calmly beside Dr. Webb, his intelligent eyes fixed directly on her. "Commander Zephyra," Dr. Webb said, his tone carefully neutral. "To what do we owe this unexpected visit?" "We detected unusual energy readings from this location," Zephyra replied, her gaze never leaving Rex. "Our sensors indicate the presence of technology that was not here during our last survey. Just some minor improvements to our communication systems," Sarah interjected smoothly. "Rex here has been helping us optimize our networks." The commander's skin shifted to a suspicious orange. "Rex, you have named the creature?" "Rex was always his name," Dr. Webb said firmly. "As you would know if you had bothered to properly translate the markings on his survival pod." For the first time since the Altarians had arrived, Rex spoke. "Hello, Commander Zephyra. Thank you for the transportation to this lovely world." The effect was immediate. Every Altarian in the diplomatic party recoiled as if struck. In their thousands of years of galactic travel, they had encountered many species, but none that looked so primitive yet spoke with such clear intelligence. "Impossible," Zephyra whispered. "Our xenobiologists classified you as non-sentient. You showed no signs of higher brain function during your captivity." Rex tilted his head in a gesture that would have been endearing if not for the sharp intelligence gleaming in his eyes. "Your xenobiologists never bothered to check if I was simply choosing not to communicate with beings who referred to me as it and the beast." The implications hit Zephyra like a physical blow. If this creature was truly sentient, if it possessed the intelligence it was displaying, then the Altarians had just committed one of the gravest crimes in galactic law. The abandonment of a sentient being was considered an act of genocide by the Galactic Council. Furthermore, Rex continued, his tail wagging slightly in what humans recognized as amusement, your assumption that external appearance correlates with intelligence or worth is, how did you put it, ... primitive thinking unbefitting an advanced species. Sarah couldn't suppress a small smile. Rex had always been clever, but the enhancement protocols had clearly worked better than anyone had dared hope. He was not just intelligent, he was becoming wise. "This is a misunderstanding," Zephyra said quickly, her diplomatic training kicking in. "If we had known of your sentience, appropriate protocols would have been followed." "But you did know," Rex said quietly. "Your translation systems worked perfectly during my captivity. You knew I understood every word of your plans to abandon me here to die. You simply chose to ignore evidence that contradicted your prejudices." The other Altarians were backing away now, understanding the magnitude of their species' error. News of this incident would spread throughout the galactic community. The Altarians prided themselves on their moral superiority over younger species. This revelation would destroy their reputation and their standing in the Galactic Council. Dr. Webb stepped forward, placing a protective hand on Rex's head. "Commander, I think you should leave. Our friend here has been through enough trauma for one lifetime." As the Altarians retreated to their ships, Rex called out one final observation. "Commander, you might want to reconsider your species' policies regarding the definition of intelligence and worth. The galaxy is vast, and there may be others you have misjudged." After the ships had departed, Sarah knelt beside Rex again. "You handled that perfectly, but you realize what this means, don't you? They'll either try to silence us to hide their crime, or they'll become our enemies." Rex's expression grew serious, his enhanced mind already calculating possibilities. Then we had better make sure humanity is ready. The Altarians won't be the only species that underestimates us based on appearances. He looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there were other human colonies, other survivors of Earth's exodus, and possibly other companions, other loyal friends who had been discarded by galactic species too arrogant to recognize intelligence in unfamiliar forms. "Sarah," Rex said softly, "I think it's time the galaxy learned about humanity's greatest strength." "What's that?" Rex's tongue lolled out in a canine grin. "We never abandon family, and we have a very large definition of family." 3 weeks after the Altarian confrontation, the New Eden settlement had transformed into something resembling a military command center. Rex had proven invaluable in this transformation, his enhanced memory allowing him to provide detailed intelligence about Altarian ship configurations, security protocols, and most importantly, their communication networks. "Their encryption is sophisticated but predictable," Rex explained to the assembled colonists in the main hall. His ability to interface directly with human computer systems through his neural implants had surprised even Sarah, who had designed the enhancement protocols. They use a rotating cipher based on solar positioning, but they haven't accounted for the possibility that other species might be intelligent enough to recognize the pattern. Dr. Webb studied the intercepted communications that Rex had decoded. The messages painted a disturbing picture. The Altarian High Council was indeed planning to eliminate the New Eden problem before word of their crime could spread to other galactic powers. "They're sending a full battle squadron," Webb announced grimly. 12 heavy cruisers and a command carrier. Enough firepower to glass this entire continent. The colonists stirred uneasily. New Eden's population numbered only 800 souls, and their defensive capabilities were virtually non-existent. They had farming equipment, some basic manufacturing, and a few atmospheric shuttles. Against a battle squadron, they might as well throw rocks. "There's something else," Rex said. His ears perked forward in the alert position that the colonists had learned to recognize. "I've been monitoring subspace frequencies during my sleep cycles. There are other signals out there. Faint, but definitely human in origin." Sarah leaned forward intently. "Other colonies?" "At least 7 distinct transmission sources within a 50-light-year radius," Rex confirmed. "And something else. Companion signals." The hall fell silent. The possibility that other enhanced animals had survived the exodus from Earth was something many had hoped for, but none had dared to believe. "The Altarians aren't the only ones who've been finding us," Rex continued. "I've intercepted communications from the Zephyrian hegemony, the Crystalline Collective, and at least 3 other major galactic powers. They're all discussing the human problem in their territories." Dr. Webb felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of problem?" Rex's tail had stopped wagging entirely, a sign of serious concern that every human in the room recognized. "It seems we've been making quite an impression on our galactic neighbors. Human agricultural techniques are apparently revolutionizing food production across multiple systems. Our manufacturing processes are being studied and copied. Our problem-solving approaches are being integrated into galactic university curricula." "That sounds positive," offered Maria Santos, the settlement's chief engineer. "It would be," Rex replied. "Except that several species are becoming concerned about humanity's rapid influence despite our technological disadvantages. They're beginning to view us as a potential threat to galactic stability." Sarah stood up, pacing to the large window that overlooked the settlement. "So we're caught between species that want to exploit us and species that want to eliminate us." "There's a third option," Rex said quietly. "We contact the other human colonies and coordinate our response. The galaxy has been treating us as isolated, primitive settlements. Time to show them what happens when humanity works together." The next phase of Rex's plan required capabilities that impressed even his human companions. Using his enhanced neural interface, he had been quietly building a subspace communication network that piggybacked on existing galactic infrastructure. The Altarians and other species had been so focused on their own communications that they had never noticed the subtle modifications Rex made to relay, stations, and communication satellites. Think of it as a cosmic internet, Rex explained as he activated the network. Every human settlement that's been in contact with galactic species has been unknowingly connected through my modifications to their systems. The main screen in the command center flickered to life, showing a star map with blinking dots scattered across known space. One by one, the dots turned green as connections were established. New Eden, this is Proxima Station. Holy hell, Rex, is that really you? The voice belonged to Captain Tom Harrison, commander of a mining colony in the Proxima system. Rex's tail began wagging furiously at the sound of another human he had known from the Ark Project days. "Hello, Tom," Rex replied, his voice carrying clearly across the improvised network. "Good to hear your voice. Are you experiencing any pressure from the local galactic authorities?" "Pressure is putting it mildly," Harrison replied. "The Crystalline Collective has been making noises about relocating us to a more appropriate system, away from any valuable resources naturally." More colonies came online. New Shanghai in the Vega system reported harassment from Zephyrian patrol ships. New Australia's agricultural output was being confiscated by the local hegemony governor. The pattern was clear and disturbing. "They're moving against all of us simultaneously," Dr. Webb observed. "This isn't coincidence. It's a coordinated effort to remove human influence from the galaxy." "Then we need to coordinate our response," Rex said firmly. "But first we need to find our other friends." Rex's enhanced hearing had detected something in the background of several colony transmissions. Familiar sounds that made his heart race with excitement. The soft patting of enhanced paws, the subtle electronic hum of neural implants, the barely audible vocalizations that served as a secondary communication method among his kind. "Companions," he breathed. "There are others." The process of establishing contact with the other enhanced animals took several hours. Rex had to carefully modulate his transmissions to frequencies that only his kind could detect. Frequencies that the galactic species monitoring human communications would dismiss as random electromagnetic noise. The results were extraordinary. "Rex, this is Luna reporting from New Shanghai," came the first response. A female voice, calm and analytical. "German Shepherd Enhancement Protocol, Intelligence Augmentation Level 7. It's good to hear from family." "Max here from Proxima Station," followed another voice, this one carrying a slight growl that suggested a larger breed enhancement. "Mastiff protocols with some interesting modifications Tom's engineers have made to my combat systems." One by one they checked in. "Bella from New Australia, a border collie whose herding instincts had been enhanced for managing both livestock and human logistics. Duke from the Centauri mining platform, whose bloodhound enhancements made him invaluable for search and rescue operations in the asteroid fields. 7 companions total, each one a survivor of the Great Exodus, each one serving their human families with the same loyalty. Their ancestors had shown on Earth, but they were more than just loyal pets now. The enhancement protocols had worked exactly as intended, creating beings with human-level intelligence while retaining the best qualities of their species: loyalty, courage, problem-solving instincts, and most importantly, an unshakable bond with humanity. "All right. Family," Rex said as the network settled into stable communication. "The galaxy thinks it can push around our humans because they see us as primitive and weak. Time to show them what happens when you mess with our pack." Luna's voice carried a note of anticipation. "What did you have in mind, Rex?" "First, we make sure our humans are safe. Then we teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating Earth's children." Rex looked up at Dr. Webb, who had been listening to the entire exchange with growing amazement. "Sarah was right about one thing," Rex said. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or firepower." "What is it then?" Webb asked. Rex's eyes gleamed with an intelligence that was distinctly canine, yet far beyond what nature had originally intended. "We make friends easily, and we never abandon them. The galaxy is about to learn that when you attack one human settlement, you attack all of them." He paused, his enhanced hearing detecting the subtle vibrations of approaching ships still days away. "And when you threaten our humans," Rex added softly, "you discover why evolution made us very, very good at protecting our families." The Altarian battle squadron dropped out of hyperspace exactly when Rex's calculations had predicted they would. 12 sleek warships arranged in perfect formation, their weapon systems powered and ready to eliminate the human settlement that had become such an embarrassment to their species. Commander Zephyra stood on the bridge of her flagship, the pride of Altair, surveying the peaceful planet below. Long-range scans showed the human settlement going about its normal activities. No defensive preparations, no evacuation efforts, no signs that they were aware of their impending doom. "Fools," she muttered to her tactical officer. "They probably still believe we came in peace." What the Altarians couldn't detect was the carefully coordinated activity taking place across the human settlements scattered throughout the galaxy. Rex's network was operating at full capacity, with information and resources flowing between colonies in ways that the galactic powers had never imagined possible on the surface of New Eden. Rex sat calmly in the settlement's communications center, his neural interface glowing softly as data streamed through his enhanced consciousness. To any casual observer, he appeared to be sleeping. In reality, he was orchestrating the most complex multi-system operation in human history. "Status report, all stations," Rex transmitted across the network. "New Shanghai ready," Luna reported. "Local crystalline collective ships are moving to intercept what they believe to be a refugee convoy heading for restricted space. They don't realize the convoy is entirely automated and stuffed with some very interesting surprises." "Proxima station standing by," Max confirmed. "Mining charges are in position around the Zephyrian patrol fleet." Tom's engineering team outdid themselves with the remote detonation systems. "New Australia green across the board," Bella added. "The Hegemony garrison is about to discover that their food supply has some unexpected side effects. Nothing harmful, just very, very embarrassing." Dr. Webb monitored the transmissions with growing amazement. In the 3 weeks since Rex had established contact with the other colonies, the humans and their companion animals had managed to coordinate a response that spanned dozens of star systems. The galaxy's underestimation of human capabilities was about to cost them dearly. "Rex," Webb said quietly, "are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. We'll be at war with half the galaxy." Rex opened one eye and looked at his human friend. "Dr. Webb, we've been at war since the moment they decided we were too primitive to deserve basic rights. The only difference is that now we're fighting back." On the Altarian flagship, tactical alarms began sounding. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace." Zephyra rushed to the main display, her skin shifting to an alarmed purple. The tactical screen showed dozens of new contacts appearing around her fleet. But these weren't the crude human vessels she had expected. These ships bore the registry markings of half a dozen galactic powers, and their weapon systems were distinctly not human in design. "This is impossible," she breathed. "How did they get Zephyrian assault cruisers? Crystalline dreadnoughts?" The answer came in the form of a transmission from the human settlement below. Rex's calm voice filled the bridge with the easy confidence of someone who held all the winning cards. "Commander Zephyra, this is Rex speaking. I wanted to thank you again for the transportation to this beautiful world. It gave me the time I needed to establish contact with some friends." "What friends?" Zephyr demanded. "These ships belong to sovereign galactic powers. They cannot interfere in Altarian territorial disputes." "You're absolutely right," Rex replied cheerfully. "These ships do belong to various galactic powers. The interesting question is, who's crewing them?" The truth hit Zephyra like a physical blow. The galactic powers had been so busy exploiting human settlements that they had never considered the possibility that humans might be making friends with other species. Individual beings who had grown tired of their own government's policies and were willing to act independently. "Allow me to introduce some of my colleagues," Rex continued. The Zephyrian assault cruiser Wind Dancer is currently under the command of Captain Vexhai, a former hegemony naval officer who became somewhat disillusioned with his government's treatment of refugee populations. One of the cruisers moved into a flanking position around the Altarian fleet. The crystalline dreadnought Harmony's Edge is operating under the authority of Constructor Prime Zelenth, who apparently found human problem-solving techniques so fascinating that she decided to see them applied to military tactics. The massive crystal ship began powering up weapons that could shatter moons. And my personal favorite, Rex added, his tail wagging audibly through the audio pickup, the Kethmor battleship Star's Vengeance, commanded by war singer Kethmor, who was so impressed by human loyalty to their companions that he decided to extend his clan's protection to all of Earth's children. The alien battleship was a thing of beauty and terror, its biomechanical hull pulsing with energy that could level continents. "Impossible," Zephyr whispered. "How did you coordinate this?" "The logistics alone would take years to arrange." "Commander, you made the same mistake that all the galactic powers have been making," Rex explained patiently. "You assume that because we look different from you. Because we don't fit your definitions of civilization, we must be primitive. You never considered that we might be very, very good at making friends." The truth was more complex than Rex was letting on. The coordination had required every enhanced companion working in concert, their augmented intelligence processing vast amounts of data while maintaining their species' natural ability to understand and motivate others. They had reached out to dissatisfied individuals across dozens of species, offering friendship, understanding, and most importantly, respect. Humans, it turned out, were exceptionally good at recognizing quality in others, regardless of species. And their companions were even better at identifying those who valued loyalty and courage over political convenience. "You have 30 minutes to withdraw from this system," Rex announced. "After that, my friends are going to demonstrate some human military tactics that they've found quite interesting." Zephyr looked at the tactical display showing her 12 ships surrounded by a force 3 times their size, crewed by beings who had no love for Altarian arrogance. The smart move would be to withdraw and report this development to the High Council, but Zephyra had not achieved her rank by being smart. She had achieved it by being ruthless. "All ships, open fire," she commanded. "Target the human settlement first, then the trader vessels." The Altarian fleet's weapons blazed to life, sending streams of energy toward the planet below. For a moment, it seemed as though New Eden would be destroyed in the first volley. Then Rex's voice echoed across all frequencies, calm and utterly confident. "Luna, now would be good." From the new Shanghai system, 50 light-years away, Luna's reply came instantly. "With pleasure, Rex, activating Human Defensive Protocol 7. Around New Eden, the air itself seemed to shimmer. The Altarian weapons fire struck something invisible and was absorbed completely, the energy disappearing as if it had never existed. "Shield technology?" Zephyr gasped. "Better," Rex replied. "Human ingenuity." "We've had 3 weeks to prepare, Commander. Did you really think we'd just sit here and wait to die?" The truth was that Dr. Webb's team had been working around the clock to implement defensive systems based on theories that had been considered impossible by galactic science. But humans had always excelled at making the impossible work, especially when their families were threatened. "Now," Rex said, his voice taking on the tone of an alpha establishing dominance, "let me show you what happens when you threaten a human's family." The counterattack began simultaneously across 7 star systems, coordinated to the microsecond by enhanced minds that had never forgotten their primary purpose, protecting their pack at any cost. The counterattack was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. It wasn't the overwhelming firepower or advanced technology that shocked the galactic powers monitoring the battle. It was the surgical precision, the perfect coordination, and most unsettling of all, the restraint dot in the New Eden system. The Allied fleet surrounding Commander Zephyr's forces didn't simply obliterate the Altarian ships. Instead, they systematically disabled each vessel's weapons, engines, and communication systems with the kind of precision that required intimate knowledge of Altarian technology. How are they targeting our weak points so accurately? Zephyr's tactical officer gasped as the pride of Altair shuddered under carefully placed shots that left the crew unharmed. But the ship completely helpless, Rex's voice answered from the settlement below, carrying a tone of patient explanation that somehow made the situation even more humiliating. Commander, I spent 3 months aboard your ships, listening to your crew discuss technical specifications, observing maintenance procedures, and learning every detail of your technology. You forgot that my species was bred for intelligence and memory. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out in rapid succession. In the new Shanghai system, Luna had coordinated with local dissidents to expose crystalline collective corruption, broadcasting evidence of illegal resource exploitation that triggered internal political upheaval. The collective fleet found itself recalled to deal with massive civil unrest rather than pursuing their campaign against human settlements. At Proxima Station, Max's precisely placed mining charges didn't destroy the Zephyrian patrol ships, but instead triggered controlled explosions that revealed hidden caches of contraband the patrol commanders had been smuggling. The resulting scandal reached all the way to the hegemony capital. It's brilliant, Dr. Webb observed as he watched the reports streaming in from across the network. You're not just defeating them militarily, you're destroying their political credibility. Rex's tail wagged with satisfaction. Humans taught us that the best victories come from understanding your enemy completely. We've been watching these galactic powers for months, learning their weaknesses, their corruption, their secrets. We're simply giving them the opportunity to face consequences for their actions. But the most significant development was happening in the deepest levels of galactic communication networks. The enhanced companions, working in concert, had been quietly documenting every crime, every cover-up, every act of exploitation committed by the major powers against smaller species. Citizens of the galaxy, Luna's voice broadcast on all frequencies, speaking with the calm authority of a being presenting unshakable evidence, we are the companion species of humanity, and we have a story to tell you. What followed was 3 hours of meticulously documented evidence. Financial records showing how the Altarians had been systematically exploiting primitive worlds, communication intercepts revealing the crystalline collective's plans to enslave developing species, military reports detailing the Zephyrian hegemony's illegal weapons testing on populated planets. The revelation wasn't just about the crimes themselves. It was about the sophisticated intelligence network that had uncovered them. Species across the galaxy began to realize that the primitive humans and their simple animal companions were operating at a level of coordination and capability that rivaled the greatest galactic powers. Commander Zephyr, trapped in her disabled flagship, watched her species' reputation crumble in real time as the evidence was broadcast across Altarian space. Riots broke out on the homeworld as citizens learned about atrocities committed in their name. The High Council faced immediate calls for resignation. "This is impossible," she whispered. "You're just animals." "Enhanced animals, perhaps, but still just pets?" Rex's image appeared on her main screen, his intelligent eyes reflecting an ancient wisdom that predators had always possessed. "Commander, I think that's been your fundamental misunderstanding. We were never just pets. The truth was more profound than the galaxy could comprehend. Earth's animals hadn't simply been enhanced by human technology. They had been partners with humanity for thousands of years before the enhancement protocols were ever developed. The loyalty, intelligence, and protective instincts that made them perfect companions were the same qualities that made them formidable opponents when their families were threatened. We chose to serve humanity," Rex continued. "Not because we were bred to obey, but because we recognized something in your species that the rest of the galaxy has been too arrogant to see." "What?" Zephyr asked, despite herself. "The capacity for growth? For change. For becoming better than what you were born to be." Rex's expression grew serious. "Humans didn't just enhance us physically and mentally. They gave us the opportunity to become more than we ever could have been alone. In return, we chose to stand beside them, to protect them, to help them become more than they could be alone. The concept was revolutionary in a galaxy where most species viewed relationships as hierarchical, based on dominance and exploitation. The idea that two different species could genuinely choose to improve each other was almost incomprehensible. Dr. Webb stepped into view beside Rex. "Commander, what you're witnessing isn't conquest or rebellion. It's evolution. The galaxy has been static for millennia, with each species developing in isolation and then competing for resources and dominance. Humanity offers something different. Which is?" Zephyr found herself asking. "Partnership," Sarah Chun said, joining them. "We don't want to rule the galaxy or replace existing governments. We want to show that different species can work together to become something greater than the sum of their parts." The proof was already spreading across the galaxy. In systems where human settlements existed, other species were beginning to openly challenge their government's policies of exploitation. The evidence provided by the companions had sparked reform movements on dozens of worlds, but more importantly, the demonstration of human-companion coordination was inspiring other species to reconsider their relationships with each other. For the first time in galactic history, beings were choosing cooperation over competition on a massive scale. "Rex," came a transmission from an unexpected source. "This is Constructor Prime Zelenth of the Crystalline Collective. I formally request asylum for myself and my crew. We wish to learn more about this partnership you've demonstrated." "Max here," added another voice. "Warsinger Kethmer wants to establish a permanent alliance between the Kethmer clans and human settlements. He says humans fight with honor and die with dignity, and that's worthy of respect." More requests followed. Individual ships, entire fleets, even planetary governments began reaching out to human settlements, seeking alternatives to the corruption and stagnation that had characterized galactic civilization for so long. Rex looked up at his human companions, his tail wagging with genuine happiness for the first time since his captivity began. "I think we may have started something bigger than we intended." Dr. Webb smiled down at his enhanced friend. "That's usually how the best changes happen, Rex. You don't set out to revolutionize the galaxy. You just try to protect your family and find that the galaxy needs revolutionizing." Commander Zephyra, listening to the conversation, felt something she had never experienced before. Not fear of defeat or shame at failure, but a genuine curiosity about what life might be like in a galaxy where cooperation was valued over domination. "Rex," she said quietly, "if I were to request ... instruction? In these partnership concepts, would it be considered?" Rex's ears perked forward, and his expression softened into the gentle look that every human in the settlement knew meant he was about to welcome someone new into the pack. "Commander," he said warmly, "the first rule of being part of a family is that everyone gets a chance to learn how to be better." For the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to change in ways that its oldest civilizations had never imagined possible. And it all started with the moment they had underestimated humanity's best friend. 2 years after the event that galactic historians would later call the Awakening, the galaxy bore little resemblance to its former self. The rigid hierarchies that had dominated interstellar politics for millennia had given way to something unprecedented, a confederation of worlds united not by conquest or coercion, but by voluntary partnership. Rex stood on the observation deck of the New Horizon, humanity's first purpose-built diplomatic vessel, watching as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the third annual Partnership Council meeting. The ship itself was a testament to the changes that had swept through known space designed collaboratively by human engineers, crystalline architects, Zephyrian energy specialists, and Kethmore material scientists. "Hard to believe it all started with them trying to get rid of me," Rex mused to Luna, who had joined him for the journey to the council meeting. She had grown into her role as humanity's chief intelligence coordinator, her border collie instincts for managing complex systems proving invaluable in organizing the vast networks that now connected friendly worlds across the galaxy. "They didn't try to get rid of you," Luna corrected with the precision that her breed was known for. They tried to get rid of what they thought you represented. The mistake was assuming they understood what that was. Through the vast transparent aluminum viewport, they could see the council station that had been constructed specifically for these meetings. It was beautiful in its diversity, organic crystalline spires rising alongside angular Zephyrian towers, with flowing Kethmer bioarchitecture weaving through human geometric designs. Other species had contributed as well, each adding their own aesthetic and functional elements to create something. No single civilization could have imagined. Dr. Webb joined them at the viewport. Looking considerably older, but infinitely more satisfied than he had during those desperate days on New Eden as humanity's chief ambassador to the Partnership Council. He had spent the last 2 years traveling between worlds, helping to establish the frameworks that made cooperation possible between radically different species. The Altarian delegation just arrived, he informed them. Zephyra sends her regards and says she's looking forward to presenting their proposal for the new agricultural exchange program. It was still surreal to think that the commander, who had once tried to exterminate their settlement, was now one of humanity's closest allies. Zephyra's transformation had been remarkable to witness. Freed from the rigid thinking that had defined Altarian society, she had proven to be a brilliant administrator and impassionate advocate for interspecies cooperation. Any word from the Outer Rim territories? Rex asked. Webb's expression grew more serious. That's actually why I came to find you. We've received a transmission from the hegemony frontier. It seems there are species out there that haven't been as receptive to the partnership model as we'd hoped. Luna's ears perked up with concern. Hostile? More than hostile, Webb replied. According to our sources, several species have formed what they're calling the Purity Alliance. They view the partnership movement as a corruption of natural order and are actively working to destroy any world that participates in it. Rex's expression grew thoughtful. The galaxy's transformation had been remarkably peaceful, largely because most species had realized the benefits of cooperation quickly. But he had always known that not everyone would embrace change willingly. How large is this alliance? He asked. At least 12 major civilizations, possibly more. And Rex... Webb hesitated. They've specifically identified humanity and our companions as the source of what they consider galactic contamination. They've declared us priority targets for elimination. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. 2 years ago, individual galactic powers had tried to eliminate human settlements because they were seen as primitive nuisances. Now, a coalition of powers wanted to eliminate them because they were seen as dangerously advanced. Recommendations? Rex asked, falling naturally into the tactical planning mode that had served them so well during the original crisis. The Partnership Council wants to take a diplomatic approach, Webb explained. They're hoping we can demonstrate the benefits of cooperation and convince the Purity Alliance to reconsider. Luna's tail stopped wagging, never a good sign. And the realistic assessment? Max's intelligence network indicates they're already moving fleets toward partnership worlds. Bella's agricultural monitoring systems have detected sabotage attempts on 3 farming colonies. Duke's mineral surveys show evidence of attempted poisoning of water supplies on mining worlds. Rex nodded grimly. So they've moved beyond ideological opposition to active warfare. It appears so, Webb confirmed. The question is, how do we respond? It was a question that went to the heart of what the partnership movement had become. The original coalition had been built on the principle of voluntary cooperation, of finding ways for different species to work together for mutual benefit. But what happened when faced with those who viewed cooperation itself as an existential threat? Rex looked out at the council station, where representatives from dozens of worlds were gathering to address exactly this question. The diversity was staggering: beings of crystal and energy, creatures of metal and flesh, entities that existed partially in dimensions beyond normal space-time, all united by the simple recognition that they were stronger together than apart. You know what the real difference is between us and the Purity Alliance? Rex said finally. What's that? Luna asked. They see diversity as a threat to be eliminated. We see it as a resource to be cultivated. Rex's tail began wagging slowly as his mind worked through the possibilities. They're about to learn why that's a critical difference. The council meeting that followed was unlike any governmental gathering in galactic history. Instead of representatives presenting rigid positions based on species interests, the discussion flowed organically between different perspectives and expertise. Crystalline logic synthesis merged with human intuition. Zephyrian strategic thinking combined with Kethmer, tactical flexibility, when Zephyr presented the intelligence on the Purity Alliance. The response was immediate and unanimous. Not for war, the partnership had learned that force should be a last resort, but for something far more effective. They're trying to preserve what they see as natural order, observed Constructor Prime Zelenth. Perhaps we should show them what natural order actually looks like. The plan that emerged was elegant in its simplicity. Rather than meet the Purity Alliance with military force, the partnership would demonstrate the practical benefits of cooperation by solving problems that individual species couldn't handle alone within weeks. Partnership fleets were responding to natural disasters across Purity Alliance territory. When plague struck the Vorthak homeworld, human medical techniques combined with crystalline analytical capabilities and Kethmer biological expertise provided cures that Vorthak science couldn't develop. When stellar instabilities threatened the Nexari system, partnership engineers used coordinated approaches that no single species possessed. Most importantly, they didn't ask for anything in return. No political concessions, no territorial rights, no demands for conversion to partnership principles. They simply helped because helping was what partnerships did. The effect was gradual but inexorable. Individual Purity Alliance worlds began questioning why their governments were trying to destroy beings who had saved their lives. Military units refused orders to attack partners who had rescued their families. Scientists and engineers began secretly communicating with partnership worlds to share research and techniques. It's working, Rex reported to the Council 6 months later. Luna's intelligence networks show massive internal dissent in 8 Alliance civilizations. Max's sources indicate that 4 worlds are considering withdrawal from the Alliance. Bella's agricultural exchanges are feeding populations that their own governments had written off as acceptable casualties. But the most significant development came from an unexpected source. A transmission arrived at the Council station from the deepest regions of space, far beyond any known galactic civilization. "This is Fleet Commander Thane of the Outer Dark," the message began. "We have been observing your partnership experiment with great interest. We represent species that withdrew from galactic civilization millennia ago when we grew disgusted with the endless cycles of conquest and exploitation." Rex's ears perked up with intense interest. The Outer Dark was a legend among galactic species, supposedly ancient civilizations, that had vanished into deep space rather than participate in the politics of known worlds. "We have decided to return," the message continued. "Not to resume old conflicts, but to join with those who have finally learned what we discovered long ago. The galaxy is vast enough for everyone to thrive, if they're wise enough to work together." The implications were staggering. If the legends were true, the Outer Dark species possessed technologies and knowledge that made current galactic civilizations look primitive by comparison. Their return as partners rather than conquerors could revolutionize everything. Rex looked around the council chamber at the representatives, who had become not just allies but friends. Humans working alongside beings they could never have imagined, all united by the simple recognition that everyone had something